So, hey guys, welcome back to Accelerated Investor. Hey, it's Josh, your host. And today, what we're going to talk a little bit about is some updates to one of our properties where I hold my home office called 296 Triskett, and exactly how we spent over $2 million in the last 8 months avoiding labor problems, supply chain problems, and turning over 140 units and bumping rents over $300. That's what we're going to talk about today on Accelerated Investor.
Welcome to the Accelerated Investor Podcast with Josh Cantwell. If you're looking to retire early with forever passive income, you're in the right place. This podcast is the go-to destination for real estate investors, both active and passive, and multifamily apartment investors, both new, intermediate, and advanced. Now, sit back, listen, learn, and accelerate your business, your life, and your investing with the Accelerated Investor Podcast.
So, hey guys, welcome back. I'm excited to be with you today. Just me on a solo cast, and I want to use one of my deals as an example on exactly how to manage capital improvements. A lot of people have talked about value add or deep value add, and I don't think there's frankly a better company operating doing value add and deep value add anywhere that's doing it better than we are. But I don't say that to brag. I just say that because I think we're doing a really, really good job for investors and for shareholders, for general partners, limited partners. And so there's multiple things that we've done since we acquired this building. To refresh your memory, we bought 296 Triskett. It's a 296 unit, all garden style, all on one campus in the Lakewood submarket of Cleveland. We bought it for $16.3 million. Our plan is to put about $2.75 million into it. We'll be all in for about 19.5, a little over 19.5 million when we're done. The existing rents when we bought it were blended out to just over $600 because the former owner had owned the property for a long time. He had a very low basis and he didn't push rents at all. And so we were able to acquire the building for about $55,000 a door, and the rents were about $600 a door. Firmly B-class area, but managed like a C- or even a D+ type of building. When we bought it, there was a lot of units that were down. There were over 43 units that had not been occupied for a long time, a year to 5 years, some of them. Rents were super low. There were problems with bugs and mice, and there were problems with leasing, and there was problems with the parking lot. The residents weren't happy. The property managers that worked there were not happy. The maintenance guys were not happy because essentially the owner had just let the property go. So we buy it knowing that it's got tons of upside. And also we pro forma this thing out where the 2 bedrooms would get $1,000 a month and the 8 bedrooms or the 1 bedrooms would get $800 a month. So that became our goal. We secured a loan from a local regional bank called Premier Bank. And they funded 75% of the purchase price and 100% of the CapEx through a draw. So we have to spend the money and they reimburse, spend the money and then they reimburse, spend the money and they reimburse. And I'm very proud to kind of report back to you. And, some of you guys might be actual limited partners in this deal. Report back to you that we've processed now 5 draws totaling $2,063,151.34. And we did that in less than 8 months. The first draw was $450,000. The second draw, $587,000. The third draw, $433,000. The fourth draw, $129,000. And the latest draw, $455,000. So how do you spend $2 million in 8 months and avoid labor problems, labor shortages, supply chain issues, How do you get all your materials on site to do that? How do you spend $2 million when everybody else is complaining about labor problems and supply chain issues? How do you actually do that? That's what we're going to talk about today. Now, if you look at what we've done, we have a budget here of $2.75 million. We've already spent $2 million. One of the reasons for the urgency is that when we bought the property, we secured a loan, and one of the loan covenants was that we had 2 years of interest only, and then it would turn into fully amortizing. So we have a 2-year deadline to jump the rents so we can afford the amortizing loan payment. That's one sense of urgency. The second sense of urgency is that there's a loan covenant, what's called a completion guarantee, that says that we will complete the renovations within 2 years. And at the end of that 2-year period, if we don't have the renovations done, they're basically going to take any money left over in that $3 million worth of CapEx. They're going to set it aside in a construction reserve escrow account. But we're then going to start to pay a fully amortizing loan payment on the full amount of the loan, okay, which is $15.2 million. So we want to nail down all of this CapEx within 2 years because we want to push the rents up so that the property will perform and then be able to afford not only the interest-only payment, but the amortizing payment. So that is why we have such a high sense of urgency. So what have you done? Question, Josh, is, well, what did you guys accomplish in the last 8 months and actually spend the $2 million on? Well, the first thing is that we turned 140 units. When we bought it, it was 87% occupied. We let the occupancy dip down all the way to about 80% occupied in order to turn a lot of units. So at 80% occupied on a 300 unit building, that's about 50 to 60 vacancies. With that kind of vacancy, new vacancy coming, turning units, filling them up, new units coming, turning them, filling them up, we had about 60 units to turn at all times. It was not normally 60, it was more like 50. But with those 50 units, we were able to knock those out as whatever they needed, either a full turn, a half turn, a quarter turn, or a make ready. We were able to do whatever that unit needed. So out of that $140,000, I'm sorry, out of that, those 140 units, we've used $1.3 million on the units themselves. Okay. And so that averages out to about $9,000 a unit. In addition, now the units, you guys can go, maybe we'll put this in the show notes. If you go to Stewart House Apartments online in West Cleveland, the address is 14411 Triskett Road. You can look this up. Go to the apartments.com listing. If you look at the apartments.com listing, there's like 15, 20 photos there, and you'll see what we did to the units. White shaker cabinets, black matted hardware, black matted pull cabinet handles, long gooseneck faucets, white subway tile backsplash, new sinks. We did butcher block countertops. Okay. We did LVP flooring, new AC units, painted the units, painted the trim, glazed the tubs. In some cases, we put in new tub surrounds, new low flow toilet, new low flow shower head, new faucets, new vanities, new mirrors, new LED lights. And so this is not only allowing us to charge an incredibly large rent bump, it's also a tremendous amount of energy savings. Okay. Because when you do LVP flooring, we're not going to have to change the carpets out every 3 to 5 years. This flooring is going to last 10 to 15 years. So we harden the asset. The LED lights is going to reduce our electrical budget over time. Okay. The low flow toilets, shower heads, and faucets are also going to reduce our water and sewer consumption over time. So the capital improvements, which is a balance sheet item, is then helping us to operate better on the P&L. And as we all know, the P&L is all that really matters when you value a building. The net operating income is all that matters. So by improving the units, not only can we increase the rent tremendously. So on a 2-bedroom that they used to charge maybe $650 for, we're now, our pro forma is to get $1,000 a month. Guess what we're getting for rent? $995 for rent. So we have dozens and dozens and dozens of these units on the rent roll that are now matching the pro forma. Now that $1,000 a month for rent, that was after 3 or 4 years. And we're hitting those rents now after just 9 months. So way ahead of schedule with that. And so how do you do that? Like, how does that actually work? Well, first of all, some of the things that you have to know about managing a large construction budget is, number one, is your due diligence. Okay, your due diligence when you are walking the building, when you are walking through the commons, the boilers, you're walking through the units, you're looking at windows, you're looking at if there's any leaks, you're looking at the condition of each unit, all of these types, you're cammering the sewers, you're walking the roofs. All of that was put together in our due diligence budget. So our budget after due diligence was $2.55 million. And then when we took over the building, we went up by about 200 grand. It went up to 2.75 million. And most of that was actually just to cover salaries. Okay, so 2.55 was the actual cost of labor and material. The extra $200,000 is pretty much our internal staff that's managing the capital improvements. And so due diligence has to be tight. Okay, when we walk units, we're looking for leaks. We're looking to see if the resident is somebody that we want to keep. Is that a renewal, or is that or a kick out? Somebody that we're going to let them run the gamut of their lease and then not renew them because their unit's dirty or it needs improved. Okay. So we're going to look at those kind of things. We're going to jot that down. We're also going to look at all the windows. We walked through the windows. We noticed there was a lot of windows that were fogged or that were cracked or that had a draft. We ended up replacing over 400 windows. The boilers, we had all the boilers inspected during due diligence, and we found out that a number of the boilers were actually a fire hazard. Like they actually could break out into a fire. So we obviously had to put that into the budget, okay? And we ended up working through that and getting reports back from certified HVAC guys, and we ended up spending, let's see, I have the budget right here in front of me. We ended up spending $214,000 on replacing, I believe it was 10 boilers, plus maintaining and servicing the other roughly 10 boilers so that all the buildings had efficient heat. Okay. So that was a big part of it. Also, all the commons, walking the commons. So we need to paint the commons, the flooring in the commons, LED lights in the commons, also painting and flooring in the laundry and the storage rooms. Okay. So we ended up spending there about $139,000 turning all of the commons. Okay. Now this building has 26 buildings. Okay. Actually, there's 25. They're labeled A through Z. It stops at Y. A through Y. There's 25 buildings. And about 20 to 21, 22 of those buildings have a boiler. So that was another thing we looked at during due diligence. Obviously, new signage and rebranding of the property. We're going to spend about $9,000 on signs and about $35,000 on exterior paint. We've spent about $18,000 on roofs. So all of these kinds of things are things that we need to inspect during due diligence. I'm going to quickly rip through all of the line items that we look at for due diligence. You're probably going to want to replay this back, and then you're going to want to take notes on this. So you can actually use this during your due diligence period. Okay, also, by the way, I cover all of this during our 3-day live events that we do. We do live events, virtual live events once a quarter, and you can get a ticket for a couple $100 at foreverpassiveincome.com. And so go grab a ticket. We're going to be doing another live event very soon. and I'll teach you this over a 3-day period, our entire real estate investing in apartments from A to Z. Okay, so write this down. Here we go. There's actually 24 line items that we look at in due diligence when we look at the building. Number 1, roofs. Number 2, parking. Number 3, tuck pointing or exterior maintenance. Number 4, exterior paint. Number 5, exterior lighting. Number 6, landscaping. Number 7, hardscaping. Number 8, signage. Number 9, windows. Number 10, awnings. Number 11, common paint. Number 12, common flooring. Number 13, common lighting. Number 14, laundry and storage paint. Number 15, laundry and storage flooring. Number 16, HVAC. Number 17, boilers. Number 18, electrical. Number 19, plumbing. Number 20, garage. Number 21, security doors. Whatever number I'm on, I think 22, cameras. Number 23, dumpsters or storage containers that we're going to need. And finally, lastly, is miscellaneous, which could include a leasing office. Okay. Renovating a leasing office. Maybe you have a clubhouse. Maybe you have a pool. Some of those types of things all fall into what we call maintenance. So those are 24 items that we have on our chart of accounts that we look at when we're taking over a building. So number 1, the first thing you have to do is a really detailed due diligence. So we walk a building at least once or twice during our 30-day due diligence period. And then we also walk the building one more time about 5 to 7 days before we close. Okay, so we walk a building typically 3 times. And by the time we're closing on it, we know exactly what we're going to be doing into it. So the day we buy it, we can move the dumpsters and the storage containers in and get our first shipment of material. Okay, so that is the critical first step for how you turn 140 units and spend $2 million inside of 8 months. Number 2, okay, you got to have a owner's rep or an internal vice president of construction, someone on your team that's an absolute expert at commercial construction and being basically the air traffic controlman. Somebody that knows how to deal with the vendors like Lowe's, Home Depot, Menards, National, all these different companies that we've used, okay, Famous Supply, all these different companies that we've used, and how to get things ordered ahead of time and get it stored. Also, somebody who's going to work through and order those materials and negotiate prices. And also that owner's rep or internal VP of construction, somebody that's also going to plan out all your labor. So we buy all of our own material. We buy it at cost. Not only that, but we buy it through Lowe's, a lot of it through Lowe's, and Lowe's gives us an amazing rewards program where they give us kickbacks and rewards dollars for free. So in any one year, could be 6 figures or more that we're making in free money, free rewards. Now, a lot of that time, we can either take that out as a distribution or it can be reinvested back into a property. Okay, it's basically free money.
Are you ready to automate and explode your real estate investing? We're searching for extremely motivated individuals who are sick and tired of wasting time and want to finally see real results from their real estate investing business. We're searching for investors looking to get to the next level and become a bigger, better version of themselves while being a more successful real estate investing entrepreneur. Apply for mentoring and coaching at joshcantwellcoaching.com/podcast. That's joshcantwellcoaching.com/podcast.
Number 2, Lowe's also dealing with these different vendors, Lowe's, Home Depot, Menards, Famous, they'll all usually have 30-day terms. Well, some of them will actually offer you a line of credit where that line of credit will allow you to buy the material using their line of credit. Then that line of credit could have 30, 60, 90-day terms. So you're not actually spending your own cash. Then by the time you're done spending the money, the materials are sitting on their line of credit. You turn these units, let's say over a month to 3 months, then you apply to your bank for your construction draw. And then the draw comes in from the bank, which pays off the line of credit. So in that scenario, how much money actually did you actually cut out of your own pocket or out of your budget? The answer is only the labor. Okay. So the money went from buying the materials and getting them delivered, but going onto the Lowe's line of credit, sitting there for 30, 60, 90 days, applying for a bank draw. The bank then reimburses us, which pays off the Lowe's line of credit. So the second most important thing that I just mentioned is the owner's rep or the VP, the guy that's an expert. That's their swim lane. Number 3, as I mentioned, is the supply house. You have to have a supply house like a Lowe's, like a Home Depot, Menards, Famous, et cetera, national, that is not only willing to offer you the materials on time, on budget, discounted prices for volume, but also someone who is going to work with you because you're such a big player, you're such a big customer, that they're willing to offer you a line of credit and rewards. It's a huge, huge benefit when you're spending a lot of money. Okay. Number 4, you got to have the labor. Right now, we're talking about this country having a massive labor shortage. Sure. A lot of people are having trouble with labor. Do you think if we spent $2 million inside of 8 months that we're having trouble with labor? Yeah, not really. Okay, so it's another reason why buying these larger complexes is actually makes things easier, is because when you buy a larger complex and one of your contractors or subcontractors, maybe they have a crew of 2 or 4 or 6 people on a crew, they can assign a crew to your building and they never have to leave because there's always a lot of work. Okay. So the 4th key to being able to really scale your CapEx and spend $2 million inside of 8 months is to make sure that you have enough work for your crews. We currently have 4 crews that work on our portfolio in the greater Cleveland area. We have about 1,300 units just in this area. Again, we got another 800 units in Houston, another 1,000 units in Atlanta. But just in the Cleveland area, we've got 4 crews. Those crews, each crew is made up of 2 to 6 guys. Okay. And they're all pretty much subcontractors. One of the crews work for us full-time. They're actually on our payroll. They're our W-2 employees. And those 2 guys are part of one crew and they turn units together. Then the second crew, they turn units together. The third crew, they have a group of units. The 4th crew, they have a group of units. When they do the whole unit from A to Z, they do the demo, they do the flooring, they do the paint, they do the pack out, the install of the kitchen, the bathrooms, they do plumbing, and they do the punch list. Okay. So that's really the 4th major item that you got to square away. Okay. In order to be able to spend that kind of money. Now, the last thing I'm going to mention in this particular recording, in this particular training, is that you've got to, on a quarterly basis, possibly even a monthly basis, is you have to take inventory of where the hell you're at. Okay. So we call those KPIs. Most people call them KPIs, key performance indicators. And our KPIs tell us, are we on time, on budget? Are we ahead of schedule? Okay. Are we ahead of time, ahead of budget? Where are we at? Okay. So to give you an idea on Stewart House, after spending this $2 million, okay, we were able to specifically raise the rent. Okay. And this is a really kind of a cool metric. If I can find it here on my sheet. Let's see. I've got it right here. Let me just find it. So when we bought Stewart House, okay, And we were in the process of buying it and putting together our goals. We were going to take the blended rent from about $650 and bump that up to about, again, $1,000 on the 2 beds and about $800 on the 1 beds. And the pro forma is not about, it's an exact number. We were able to bump the rents on our portfolio big time. Okay. And so when I looked at our various goals, I thought, okay, well, what can we bump the rent to? Okay. How can we really push that rent up? And I took inventory. I said, okay, we've owned the building now at the end of 2022. How far did we push the rent on our various properties? Okay. So now if you look at, buying it, blended rent, about $600, I think it was $606, if my memory serves me right. Now, when I look at our rent roll, our latest rent roll, we're now collecting, okay, over $210,000 on our rent roll. Okay, so let's do the math. $210,000 on the rent roll divided by 296 units. Okay, that's $709 of blended rent. Okay, now at that time, with the $210,000 of collectible income on the books, we were also only had about 85% occupancy. Okay, so we're really not dividing the 210,000 by 296 units. Okay, if you take 296 and you take 15% of that off, because we were really only at about 85% occupied, so that's about 45 units. So 296 minus 45, you have 251 occupied units. So if you take now 210,000 divided by 251, we've bumped the rent, right, from $650 on average to $836 on average in less than 9 months. Okay. And when I look at our pro forma and our goals of where we want to be, right, I know we're getting really, really close to our pro forma. I know we want to collect when we're at stabilization and every unit's turned and every unit's been bumped up to their pro forma rent. We want to be able to be in a position where we're collecting about $260,000 a month. Okay. And that's our pro forma number when we want where we want to get to. Okay. But on our 2 bedrooms, we want to average $1,025. And on our 1 bedrooms, we want to average $804. Okay. You blend all that together. Okay. And it's $956 blended rent. Well, within 9 months, we've jumped the blended rent from just a hair under $650 up to $836. So we've already achieved about 60% of our rent bump goal. Our goal is to get to $957 a month blended. We're at $836 a month blended. And the reason why you can have such a big rent jump is because the quality of the building, the quality of the units, the full turns, the laundries, the commons, the boilers, the windows, the signage, the landscaping, it's all been improved. So while a lot of other people are saying, wow, there's a 7% jump in rent, there's a 15% jump in rent. Yeah, great. That's amazing. If you're in Dallas or you're in Phoenix or you're in, Orlando, and you got these 10 to 15% jumps in rent, that's because that was market driven, not value add driven. Okay. So if I take $650 divided by 836, okay, 836, right? That's a 28% jump in the rent in less than 9 months. Okay. So if I take 28 divided by 9 and then multiply times 12, it's a 37% annualized rent increase. So that, my friends, is the end result. Okay. And so let's just recap as we kind of wrap this one up. So the keys to being able to scale your CapEx: number one, due diligence, 3 walkthroughs. Number 2, an owner's rep or an internal VP who can oversee your labor and your materials. Number 3, working with one supply house that will provide lines of credit and rewards and timely materials. Our preferred vendor is Lowe's. Number 4 are the crews, right? Making sure that you have 3 to 4 crews with 2 to 6 guys each and having multiple subs, right? And knowing that you have work for them. Number 5, your KPIs. Reviewing your KPIs on a monthly, at least quarterly basis to determine how's your rent roll growing. Okay, what's the result of the CapEx that you're doing? How close are you to pro forma? What kind of rents are you getting on your rent roll? Okay. Now, finally, for us, our final step here over the next basically 14 months, because again, as I mentioned at the beginning of this podcast, we have 24 months of CapEx, we have a completion guarantee, and we have the loan pivoting from interest only to amortizing. We've got 14 months to go. Okay. Now, in that next 4 months, all right, we're going to be doing a lot more make readies. We're going to be doing a lot more quarter turns. We're going to be doing a lot more half turns. We're going to be doing a lot more renewals, bumping people up. And they're going to take those renewals because the building is in such better condition. The bug problems are gone. The boilers are operating perfectly. The windows are new. The units are new. The laundries, the commons are new. The management is tight. The portal is tight. The laundry systems are tight. And so now somebody that was paying $650, if we try to bump them up to $850 or $900, they might second guess that and say, wow, that's a big jump. But where else are they going to go and get that kind of value? Right? Where else are they going to go and get that kind of value for their money? You see, in the Midwest, we love buying these kind of buildings because there's not a ton of new construction in the Midwest. So much of the construction is down in the Sun Belt. And so now we have the same impact of buying new construction, but we can buy it at a such lower cost. Like our basis in these units is like $65,000 to $70,000 versus the basis of building something brand new might be $200,000 a unit. Right? And we're doing some of that too. We're doing some new construction, but value add and deep value add is absolutely how you force the appreciation and create the most value. And you do that by scaling your CapEx. Now, if you enjoyed this episode, guys, a couple things. Number 1, rate, review, like, subscribe. Okay. Thank you so much when you do that. It means a ton. We've got a bunch of ratings, reviews, subscriptions here over the last 6 months. So I know this is having an impact, and I hope this content is really, really good for you. Number 2, live events, right? We decided not just to have our mastermind program, what we call the Forever Passive Income Maverick Mastermind. Those mastermind members meet 3 times a year. We also meet twice a week online on Zoom, and we mastermind about best practices, and I do some coaching, and we talk a lot about deals, and we're doing deals together. So if you're interested in going directly into our mastermind and you're an intermediate to advanced investor, go apply for that mastermind and coaching and partnering program at joshcantwellcoaching.com. You can join our 75 members and be part of the crew. That'll be fun. Secondly, if you're not quite ready for the mastermind, but you want to learn about investing in multifamily, go to foreverpassiveincome.com. There you can grab a ticket to our upcoming live event. It's a 2.5-day live event, and I'll teach everything that I know after doing over 19 syndications and acquiring 4,500 units, everything that we've done right, everything that we've done wrong. I'll teach it to you in 3 days so that you can go scale your real estate investment portfolio through commercial multifamily. All right. So that's what you need to do. Go do those things, and we'll see you next time on Accelerated Investor.
You were just listening to the Accelerated Investor Podcast with Josh Cantwell. If you enjoyed this episode and learned something new, help us build the AI community by leaving a review and 5-star rating on our iTunes podcast channel. Also, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another episode. To see passive investing opportunities, visit freelandventures.com/passive. To start your journey toward the lifestyle you've always dreamed of with multifamily apartments, apply for one-on-one coaching with Josh at www.joshcantwellcoaching.com.